Have you ever wondered why modern English is so different from Old English? Today we delve into this fascinating evolution. Language, like a living creature, evolves over time, influenced by a myriad of factors. English is no exception. Having journeyed through centuries, it has transformed, adapted, and emerged as the global lingua franca we know today. But this journey was not a simple one. Imagine, if you will, the English of Beowulf, a language rich in complex syntax and unfamiliar vocabulary. Now, compare it to the English of today, used in our daily lives, in our favorite books, movies, and songs. The contrast is striking, isn't it? These changes did not happen overnight. They are the result of centuries of cultural, social, and historical influences, shaping and reshaping the language we use. This evolution of English is a captivating tale of transformation. Get ready to embark on a journey through time, tracing the transformation of the English language. Our journey begins around the 5th century with Old English. Imagine a time when the words we use today, such as alderman, house, and bridge, were unrecognizable as ealdorman, hus, and brick. A time when the English language was just beginning to form its identity. This was the era of Old English, a language that had a distinctly different flavor compared to the English we know today. Old English, also known as Anglo-Saxon, was a language rich with complex grammar and a diverse vocabulary. It was heavily influenced by the Germanic roots of the Anglo-Saxon settlers. Words like strong, water, and hus, now house, are examples of Old English words that still exist in our modern vocabulary. Yet, Old English was not just a Germanic language, it was a melting pot of different languages and cultures. Latin and Greek words were infused into Old English, contributing to its rich and varied vocabulary. This infusion was largely due to the influence of the Christian Church, which used Latin as its official language, and the scholarly tradition that favored Greek. Words like bishop, monk, and school are examples of Latin and Greek words that found their way into Old English. During the Anglo-Saxon era, Old English was the common tongue. It was used in literature, law, and everyday communication. The epic poem Beowulf, one of the most famous pieces of Old English literature, gives us a glimpse into the rich, complex language that was Old English. However, Old English was far from static. It evolved and changed over time, shaped by historical events and cultural exchanges. The Viking invasions, for instance, introduced a host of new words into the language. For example, brick in Old English has now become bridge in modern English. In essence, Old English was a language in flux, constantly adapting and evolving. It was a language that was shaped by the people who spoke it, by their experiences, and by the world they lived in. Old English, with its complex grammar and varied vocabulary, was the starting point of our journey. It set the stage for the evolution of the English language into what it is today, a global language spoken by billions. So, let's continue our journey, tracing the path of English from its old roots to its modern form. Fast forward to the 11th century, we arrive at the Middle English period. This marks a significant turning point in the evolution of the English language, catalyzed by a seminal event in history, the Norman conquest of 1066. The Normans, originally from northern France, brought with them a variety of Old French, heavily influenced by Latin. This set the stage for a fascinating linguistic interplay. The Norman conquest led to a profound transformation in the English language. The Old English of the Anglo-Saxons, with its complex grammar and pronunciation, began to be eclipsed by the new French and Latin elements. The Normans, being the ruling class, naturally influenced the language of law, governance, and high culture. This influence permeated the society, and English, as a result, began to absorb a large number of French and Latin words. But the influence was not merely lexical. The grammar and pronunciation of English underwent radical simplification. The inflectional endings of Old English, which indicated tense, case, and number, began to disappear. Word order became more significant, setting the foundation for the syntax we recognize in modern English. The pronunciation, too, evolved. The distinct sounds of Old English were gradually replaced with softer, more fluid sounds. The harsh K and G sounds began to soften, leading to words like night, pronounced as night, in modern English. The Middle English period was not just a time of linguistic transition, it was also a time of cultural and social change. Literature flourished, and with it, the English language. The works of Geoffrey Chaucer, often hailed as the father of English literature, are prime examples of Middle English. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales is a treasure trove of Middle English vocabulary and syntax, showcasing the language's richness and flexibility. Middle English, a period of great change, paved the way for the language we are more familiar with today. It was a crucial bridge between the old and the modern, a testament to the adaptability and resilience of the English language. This period set the stage for the expansion and global reach of English in the centuries to come. Now, we move into the 15th century, welcoming the era of early modern English. As we dive into this period, we find ourselves in a time of profound change, an age of enlightenment known as the Renaissance. This cultural revival brought renewed interest in the classical knowledge of Greece and Rome, and with it, a fresh influx of Latin and Greek words into the English language. Scholars and writers, bursting with ideas and concepts, needed new words to express their thoughts, and so they turned to these ancient languages, borrowing and adapting words, thus expanding the English vocabulary. But the Renaissance wasn't the only factor shaping early modern English. The 15th century also saw the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. This revolutionary machine made books more accessible, spreading knowledge far and wide. The printing press played a crucial role in standardizing English spelling since printers, often working in London, used their local dialect as the model for their publications. This gave rise to a more uniform written language across the country. Meanwhile, across the vast ocean, the New World was being explored. This era of discovery introduced English speakers to an array of new cultures, languages, and concepts. As explorers encountered unfamiliar lands, plants, animals, and peoples, they borrowed words from indigenous languages or coined new ones, thus contributing to the rich tapestry of English vocabulary. However, these linguistic additions weren't just one way. English too began to leave its mark on the world. As English explorers and settlers interacted with indigenous populations, they introduced their own language into these new territories, planting the seeds for English to become a global language. So, you see, the period of early modern English was a time of significant expansion and standardization. The Renaissance, the printing press, and the exploration of the New World all played their parts in shaping the English language, enriching its vocabulary and standardizing its spelling. Early modern English brought standardization and expansion, setting the stage for the English we speak today. Finally, we reach the 18th century and beyond, the era of modern English. The dawn of this period was marked by significant societal changes, and with these changes, English too began to evolve and adapt. Industrialization played a key role in the transformation of the English language. As the Industrial Revolution swept across England, it brought with it new inventions and concepts. These advancements necessitated the creation of words to describe them, thereby expanding the English lexicon. Terms like locomotive, factory, and electricity all found their roots in this era of rapid industrial growth. But it wasn't just industrialization that shaped modern English. The advent of technology, particularly in the 20th and 21st centuries, further accelerated the evolution of the language. With the rise of the internet, social media, and digital communication, new words and phrases were coined at an unprecedented rate. Hashtag, selfie, and emoji are just a few examples of words that were born out of our increasingly digital world. Lastly, we cannot overlook the impact of globalization on English. As the world became more interconnected, English emerged as a global language, a lingua franca used for international communication. This global status allowed English to absorb words from different cultures worldwide. Sushi from Japanese, yoga from Sanskrit, and safari from Swahili are all examples of borrowed words that have become part of the English vocabulary. And so, from the quills of Old English scribes to the keyboards of today's digital natives, English has journeyed through time, adapting and growing with each passing era. It has absorbed words from countless cultures, embraced new concepts brought about by industrialization and technology, and adapted to the needs of a globalized world. Modern English, a global language, continues to evolve, reflecting our ever-changing world. From Old English to modern English, the journey has been long and fascinating. We began with the rich, complex tapestry of Old English, deeply rooted in Germanic tribes and shaped by Latin and Norse influences. Then we saw the transition to Middle English, where the language was drastically altered by the Norman conquest, infusing it with French elements. In the era of early modern English, we witnessed the language's expansion, enriched by the Renaissance's intellectual and cultural blossoming. The invention of the printing press played a significant role in standardizing English, and exploration and colonization spread it to the far corners of the earth. Finally, we reached modern English, the global language. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving language, absorbing words and influences from a multitude of cultures worldwide. It's not just a communication tool, but a living, breathing entity that reflects our shared human experience. Understanding the evolution of English gives us a glimpse into history, culture, and the power of language.